Kip from Malek. Today I'm going to be talking about the workers' comp fraud statute, which is 2913.48, and I'll briefly read the A. So it says, no person with a purpose to defraud or knowing that the person is facilitating a fraud shall do any of the following. So receive workers' comp benefits to which the person is not entitled. And there's a bunch of other things. But we're going to focus on that in this video. And the typical or the simple case for workers' comp fraud comes up when people are, they're receiving temporary total disability and they happen to be working. So if you do that and you know that you're not supposed to do that, you'd be committing fraud. And the question is, whether or not you can prove that you knew or you did not know. And I think most of the time, and I'll just talk about this case where this guy claimed that he wasn't aware that you couldn't get comp at the same time as working, and the court was like, nah, that's not accurate, and they found that he couldn't, his ignorance was, his feigned ignorance was incredible. And I think most of the time that's where the IC is gonna come down upon you as well. And so bottom line is you can't work and get comp at the same time. So if you want to work, you get your wages. If you want to get comp, and specifically temporary total disability, then you can only get temporary total disability. There are forms of comp you could get while working, but it's not temporary total disability. So this case I'm going to talk about, I think it's a 10th District's appeals case maybe, but it's State versus Dorshuk, and this is the typical type of, or the easy, or the typical easy case of fraud, or the one that you encounter most with workers' comp. And so again, if you're working while receiving temporary total disability, at best it might be found to be an overpayment. At worst, there'll be an overpayment in criminal fraud. And criminal meaning you might get thrown in jail and have to pay fines and all this fun stuff. But this guy was working while receiving comp, and I think he was working multiple jobs, maybe 2 jobs. And what the court found is this guy, he tried to feign that, he claimed that he thought he couldn't work at the job where he got injured at. So he thought, I could work anywhere else and get comp. I just can't get comp and work at the job where I got injured at. And honestly, I don't think that's a horribly crazy thing to do. I think that's a common misconception, honestly, with folks, because I think they think, oh, well, I got injured at McDonald's. Well, I can't work at McDonald's, but I could work at Wendy's and Taco Bell and get comp at the same time. You can't. Bottom line, you can't. But this guy, that's what he claimed, he thought. And then what the court and the IC and all these folks found is his feigned ignorance was not credible. And the reason why is because, and this is what the IC is going to tell you too when they do these investigations, is they're going to look at all these C-84s that you filled out. And when you fill out a C-84, that's the document that you use to request comp. It'll say something on the form, hey, you can't work and get comp at the same time. And the other thing is, when you talk to your claim rep, your BWC claim rep, they're taking notes. And so this guy was basically, what he was intimating to his claim rep was that basically he was saying, oh, I'm not working. And so that was evidence used against him as well. So bottom line is, you can't do these things, and they're going to find it. And the way that they find it is they're like Johnny on the spot with finding fraud, because they do these tax things, these with the tax IRS, I guess, and they run these basically checks, and I think they do it for everybody who's receiving temporary total or PTD. And maybe if you're on temporary total for a certain amount of time, they'll run you. But they run them, and then when people turn up with their taxes and stuff, when your employers are filing their taxes or to the state or the federal, then they find that. So they'll find you. So don't do it. Don't try to be cute. Don't try to do it whilst being paid under the table or something. It's not a good idea. And here's the thing: when we tell our folks you can't do this stuff, and if you do it, you're not going to need a workers' comp attorney. You're going to need a criminal attorney at that point, because you're going to need a criminal attorney because you might be going to jail. So that is workers' comp fraud. That's the basic, simple version of it. But there's a full commission order, and this is like, I thought this was kind of interesting because this isn't dealing with comp. This guy was being prescribed oxycodone, and he had CRPS or RSD. And CRPS or RSD is complex regional pain syndrome, or reflex, sympathetic dystrophy. Basically, it's kind of a weird constellation of symptoms, and it happens when you get like crush injuries, or you get, something gets damaged really significantly, and your nerves, when they're trying to, recreate the pathways in your body with your mind, or your spine and all this fun stuff, they connect weird. And so what happens is you get these weird symptoms, and one of the significant symptoms is painful, and there's not a lot you can't really get rid of it. It's kind of a lifelong thing. You kind of just manage the pain. So it's a big deal. I mean, you get RSD or CRPS, it's not fun. And it's kind of a lifelong thing. You're going to have to be under pain management. You might have to get like a spinal cord stimulator or something like that. So this guy had CRPS, serious condition. It was allowed in his claim. But what ended up happening, and he was prescribed oxycodone, and outside the claim, he was indicted for drug trafficking. And he was trafficking in oxycodone and cocaine. So this would have been 2011. And then what ended up happening is, I don't know if the pain doc became aware of this or was clued in on this, but the pain doc, and this is back again 2011. Nowadays, whenever you're going to pain management, they're always going to drug test you, always. But maybe in 2011 it wasn't, as they didn't drug test you as often. I don't know. But bottom line is, this pain doc drug tested him, and he had negative for oxycodone. So when you go to these pain docs, one, they're going to drug test you. Two, they're going to count your pills. And you got to bring your bottle in, and you should have enough, if you're supposed to have 5 pills and you only have 4, that's a problem. If you have, or if they drug test you and you don't have any of the drug in your system, that's a problem, particularly if you don't have any of the pills. So what ended up happening is he was diverting the oxycodone to sell on the street. And so the commission, I think it was after he was charged with this this crime, the commission, the industrial commission, and I think the employer, I think it was a self-insured employer, I'm not sure, but they wanted to get their money back, because they're paying for, they wanted to get their money back for the oxycodone that they were paying through the claim. And their reason was, well, that was fraud. He committed fraud. They defrauded. They're receiving workers' comp benefits to which they weren't entitled, or whatever. And so the full commission declared that there was an overpayment, and he had committed from 2011 through 2012. So he had to pay back for these oxycodone pills. I don't know how much oxycodone pills would actually cost. So that aspect of this, I don't, maybe that's not a huge whatever. I'm not condoning doing this. Okay. And then he committed fraud by lying to his pain doc about the levels of pain, including claiming he was in 10 out of 10 pain to get the meds to sell on the street. So there was fraud and overpayment. And so that's kind of basically that's just to show that you shouldn't be lying about your pain levels. You shouldn't be lying about what you're going through in order just to get temporary total. Oh, my shoulder hurts, and you really didn't injure your shoulder. Like, filing a claim falsely. Don't do that, because if you file a claim like you fake a claim, and it later turns out that you faked it, like you actually weren't injured and your claim was allowed and you got benefits and all that stuff. One, you're kind of making everybody skeptical about injured workers, and it kind of screwing it up for everybody else. But two, you might be found to have committed criminal fraud. So bottom line is, you want to be 1,000% honest and truthful about everything in regards to your claim, whether it's where you were injured, when you're injured, how you're injured, the pain levels that you're suffering from. You don't want to exaggerate things. You don't want to make things up. because it's bad news and things can happen. You can go to jail or you can pay these big fines. So you've been listening to Kip at Malek and Malek talking about the workers' comp fraud statute 29/1348. And as I always say in all these videos, if you have a question about anything about your claim, you need to call up a workers' comp attorney. You need to call a workers' comp attorney sooner than later. Don't do this stuff alone. It's too complex. It's too confusing. There's too many little pratfalls and pitfalls you can get involved in. So go on Google, search workers' comp attorney, workers' comp lawyer. Go to your whatever city you're in. Like I'm in Columbus, so Columbus Bar Referral has a referral service. They'll refer you to a workers' comp attorney, but find somebody, okay? You call us as well, and we'll listen to your fact pattern. We'll say, hey, yeah, we think you have a claim, and I think you need to get a workers' comp attorney involved, and here's why, and this is what we might be able to do for you. And if you're not happy with our advice, then you can call somebody else, but you should definitely call a workers' comp attorney, get their advice, and get somebody involved. All right, so you've been listening to Kip at Malek and Malek. If you have any questions about anything, you can email or call me. Otherwise, you could leave them in the comments, and I'll get to them when I get to them. I appreciate you listening to this. Have a nice day. Bye.